got a little bacon grease on it. I tried to get it off.
Say to me.
Oh. Not everyone likes bacon. I know. I tried to separate.
He's getting kidnapped.
All these bacons are looking.
By myself.
Okay, wait, what? What did you say?
Because
What?
Think this is so bad now?
That's my goal.
Did you just say because I'm Iron Man?
no.
What are you talking about, Weston? Can you
Sure,
not talk?
here you go.
Are you having issues?
What did you actually say?
Boy!
Weston.
The skinny ones.
You can actually have those.
What did you
They're
actually
like
say?
$3.
Why do you get cheap glasses? Jeez.
Because they're work glasses.
Weston.
That makes sense.
What did
I
you
have
actually
like 15
say?
pairs of them.
What did you say?
Because I'm Batman.
You're not Batman.
I'm Batman.
I thought you said Iron Man. And I'm like, what?
Batman and Batman live in like 2 different universes.
No, they live two different timelines. What are you
You don't
talking
need
about?
me to. I don't. Yeah.
Two different timelines.
Alright guys, this is it. A
And two
moment.
different
All the bacon.
entire
If you've already had bacon, please do not have
Two different timelines means
There are people
two
here
different
who have
places
never had bacon.
Ah!
at the same time.
Oh, next year we're gonna be doing dinosaurs, dragons, and donuts again.
I won't do that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. You have not had bacon, come get a bacon.
I see Jed.
At the
But it
Dollar
is
Tree,
not.
they got
Be
these
warned.
peaches.
it's very hot. Okay, it is currently 11:02. I'm gonna do one more batch of bacon. Does anybody want to eat eggs? 'Cause I knew a lot of eggs right now. There's
No, but I
nobody
want
eating eggs.
bacon.
Bacon is the better.
Bacon!
So how many altogether?
Bacon.
1, 2,
Bacon.
eggs?
Bacon.
I'm asking
It's
eggs.
for raking your
Okay,
face.
4 eggs. Alright,
That
and,
tech- that-
if you want cheese on
do
your
that.
eggs, what do you want? You want cheese on those eggs? That's 1,
You've been doing
2,
too many
3. You
eggs.
wanted cheese on their eggs? What is this dollar for?
I finally got bacon.
You should both try.
You have dollars?
This is my friend did. I saw me, but I didn't see you,
I
boy.
get a really big, really good comeback.
Well, my bike is in a different place, and it's somewhere else, and it's Chinese, so I'm not going to do what I do normally, which is learn my way how to be my spot. I learned not to like.
You just threw it and it went eat it straight out.
eat it, what?
It didn't, like stick in there. It went out.
I guess.
The timing of my.
What?
You're next.
Is it because it is
Oh, she wants you to buy her a soda.
Wait, what?
No, one doesn't want cheese.
That was the order.
Exactly.
Hello?
You're like the random guy that has money.
Make the order if you go.
There's a,
Let's go.
you can lean over.
I was good for
Let's tell the order.
That might be a problem.
So,
Job. Wait, then are we just going this way?
Yeah. I did.
alright.
No, you said no, and I said that's your answer. That means, are you playing? I said, do you have money? Do you have money? No. It's in.
Yes.
Did you ask? Yes. That's fine.
With me. I did photo.
Are you playing?
No.
For you to rest.
Oh, you got it. Oh.
It's not me.
That's me.
Oh.
First time you did ask me.
God. Joel.
A few months ago.
I didn't lose.
You saw nothing.
I see his shit.
No.
I just need a better
You never
cheese.
see
You're
it.
He was losing a few.
Before you left.
They didn't have it at Costco or
You did not see the little shank thing. Oh, you got that.
That's the point. Okay,
I just smacked
give me a heart.
Weston, I didn't get.
And I'll play it.
Okay.
I didn't get.
No.
I'll pay you at the door when I get it.
I have money.
Actually,
Yay!
give me 25.
Did you get Jen?
I'm gonna do that.
What a truck asked for me.
Oh, I should have waited. You could have hit it back in. Uh oh.
When you were leaning back to try to get
Oh, he got it. Okay. Bacon. Ow, my knuckles. Yeah, let's go! Let's go! Get out of here, Jet!
Come on.
Oh! Saved! He was saved! Jet's out! Dyer's out.
You give me a shot?
No, you can't. I know. I don't care. I thought that was people saying.
Don't you dare. Yeah, boy. Boy. Boy.
Don't kill me. I'm tired of seeing a hit this game by a flying ball. Oh, wait.
Where is it?
I hear what it is. It stopped. It stopped. Utilities. Line the shot up perfectly. Pass the shot. Hey. Pass the shot. Oh. What happens? Get wrecked. It stopped.
It's a long time ago. And it's also a girl's one. So he definitely doesn't need that flyer, but he needs that flyer.
Okay. Bill's out.
Are you out, Caleb? Okay. Shiny boy.
Okay.
You look very familiar. You look very familiar. Like I see you there.
Where'd he go?
Multiple times. I hit that. I got that. Once I went in the bucket, I threw it. Oh, that was so lucky. That was incredibly lucky. That won't happen again, ever.
They lost the puck somewhere, like, I did.
Don't try to keep up my basket. I see that basket being filled up.
I did.
Are you out? That's not-
Wait, move. I think I might know where it was last time. I bought you stuff before. I bought
a knife this small.
Do you have any other flavors? Okay.
What would you like?
I like the red one or the pink one. Yeah, right. Can we go sit by Weston?
How?
There you go.
What's a holy bibble?
Get it.
Who wants holy
Get it.
Bible?
Oh, you got it. You have it.
What's
You
holy
have it.
Bible?
You have it. Oh.
Do you want to take the holy Bible?
They was his beer.
Okay. Moved it.
You said, do you want to date the
Not yet. I just met you.
I don't think the
You said
I just met you too.
I mean, sure, we can cut it off about that.
no, you didn't. It's now 5 seconds ago. It's long enough.
Although, watch that thing over
Maybe I'll make perception if you rip
Oh my goodness, is this your
my cousins.
Caleb.
where's Kebab Shop when you're done?
bowl of fruit.
Yeah.
Simon said. No, I'm just kidding.
Jump!
Yes! Let's play Simon Says. Everyone.
No,
Simon
Everybody jump.
And I see the thing is, I knew I was gonna get a very mixed reaction when I said that. I knew that there was gonna be this divide between the half of you that are like, yes, let's play that, and the other half are like, no,
No matter
that's
how
for
old you are,
children.
it's still a fun game.
Simon says act really excited about it.
Caleb.
Caleb.
My knuckles are still dead. Goggle.
Bacon.
Well,
Wait, but
it's
who's sitting
they intentionally cook it so it's
Nobody. Come sit here.
Aftertaste of ham.
Bacon.
Wait, more bacon? Oh, I'll take this.
I don't want
Mine
bacon.
now.
That was a bad choice.
It's stuck in my face. It's getting weakening. But I will say, oh, my fingers. Caleb,
Soda.
how's your buns knuckles? From Gaga Ball.
I don't know. I don't ask.
You don't ask.
Stop,
Mine are-
sister.
Mine are stood dead.
Simon says, stand up.
Hiya.
Hey, I got like 3 of you. That was really cool. Simon says, hop on 1 foot.
I can't. I'm so sore. I went.
Stop.
I'm tired. I won't stop. I'm done.
This is really fun watching you guys struggle.
It
It's weird.
hurts.
Okay, Simon says you can stop.
Ow. Wait, what if I don't never said you can sit down? Ow.
You guys both sat down.
I fell over.
Oh, you fell over. I don't know if that counts because it's not intentional, but you still did it.
I am so sore. No, I went to my parents' house one day, but he told my mom to almost bacon
Simon says grab a Bible so that you have it now so that you won't want to sit on it on your seat because that's uncomfortable and then you'll stand up during worship.
Who wants this one?
What if you have bacon in one hand and a hog knot?
Body slam.
That does not
Then
prevent
you
you from
ask your
standing
friend
on your
to
feet.
grab you one.
Tickle, tickle, tickle.
It's literally just your hands that are off the side.
So good.
Weston, did you just get ice cream with your bacon?
What? That sounds incredibly good.
I don't understand it, but I can respect it. Sort of.
Get in the mouth.
I'm not sick of You're a sick of I like bacon. You guys are, yeah, you're telling me. Yes, it's because we like bacon. Yeah, like you're weird. You're a sick of bacon. I don't like that. Wait, no, Sonia, for dessert. You and two are secret. You guys we are not.
What if I said that the winner of Simon Says, I'll buy them something from the snack bar?
Yeah, we're going.
See, that's just lame.
Is that true?
How lame.
We should do it.
I would, but I don't have cash on me.
Simon says sing.
And also we're starting.
Simon says
Too bad.
sing.
You should have played Simon Says in the first place. Just y'all missed out.
Wednesday.
Dude, we should do an epic Simon Says like tournament.
That'd be great, actually. We
We
call
do
it
like we do like rounds where
Daniel,
it's,
at the
it's
New
all
Year's thing,
small
we should do
things,
it.
little things,
yeah.
and then like rounds where it's like
Daniel,
bolting
Daniel,
and running
no, 'cause I
and you know, calisthenics.
Yes, Daniel.
Oh well.
At the New
Like a
Year's party,
Simon
we
Says
should do
Olympics.
it.
New Year's party?
Yes, we should do it now.
All right, Simon Says tournament.
I actually,
New Year's party.
I really like that idea.
I won't be there.
You should come.
I won't be there.
Get a card pool.
What do you want?
The ultimate 1v1.
I really support this. Okay. Does somebody who is not munching on delicious bacon and eggs or ice cream
Fair.
this up in prayer?
Same thing. They're both delicious.
Well, I heard several people say no. Nobody said yes. So I'll go ahead and do it. You can stop saying no now. I heard you the first time.
Lord, I thank you for this morning that we have together here together in your name, and I thank you for this delicious breakfast that Daniel has made for us, and I pray that you would just bless him and speak through him this morning, and that you would just open our hearts to worship you. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Ditto.
If you guys are eating, please just like eat really quietly or like set it aside while we worship, but please no talking. Thank you. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. Sing a new song to him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. Sing a new song to him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Clothed in rainbows of living color, flashes of lightning, rolls of thunder. Blessing and honor, strength and glory and power be to you, the only wise King. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. I will adore you. Filled with wonder, awestruck wonder, at the mention of your name. Jesus, your name is power, breath and living water. Such a marvelous mystery. Oh, and holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. I will adore you. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. My Jesus, my Savior, Lord, there is none like you. All of my days, I want to praise the wonders of your mighty love. My comfort, my shelter, tower of refuge and strength. Let every breath, all that I am, never cease to worship you. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the work of your hands. Forever I'll love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. My Jesus, is your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. And you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. And you have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Lord, once again, I pray that you would just open up our hearts to what you have to say to us this morning. I pray this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Elise. All right, guys, if you don't have your Bibles yet, time to go get one.
Cool. Get your Bible. I'm taking Tuesdays now. I feel very accomplished. I know, the picture 2.0.
One's 10.
Both are Terminator.
Number 22.
Maybe he just
Alrighty, guys, open up those Bibles to Genesis chapter 20.
maybe I'm not worried. Best chapter.
Double-sided duct tape.
Ah, yes. Back to the trilogy of Abraham failing.
Sticky substance.
Hannah, can you turn the lights on, please? While you're over there.
Best chapter.
And now it just says the entire plot.
Alrighty.
Is Genesis 20 as weird as Genesis 19?
I know, I'm actually surprised so many of you showed up a week after last week. If you were here last week, real quick, raise your hand.
I read I was.
We're going to have a PTSD therapy meeting later today for all of you who were here last week. I'm just kidding, we're not.
Please no.
What happened this week? I think I
You
was.
don't want to
You
know.
don't wanna
know.
Basically,
You'll find out.
weirdest, dumbest chapter in the entire Bible.
If you want to, you can just
Chapter
go
19.
read
Oh, no, I read. I was here last
You
week.
gotta go read it, you
Chapter
can.
19.
Just be
You
prepared.
guys should all read chapter 19.
Have a glass of water nearby.
It's kind of
Have your
weird.
parents on speed dial. Maybe like a pillow to cry into. Alright, so this week we're in chapter 20, which is way better than chapter 19 was.
Yay.
Why are you trying to, why? We had to have an entire discussion about how those crazy things were meant to teach us anything. Don't just go flashing it at people like, see how dumb and weird the Bible is? Not a good idea. Don't do that.
You got that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, mine.
Quick glances at the Bible are not great for you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to dive into chapter 20. We're back into following Abraham.
I'm scared.
Abraham has been apart from Lot and that half of his family for a while. And he, as far as he knows, Lot might be dead. So he actually goes and moves. Can you read us verses 1 and 2? Okay, wait, time out. You guys are all still talking over there. Weston, what the heck? She's trying to read. Sorry, go for it.
Now Abram moved on from there into a region of the
Negev.
and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abram said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then
Abimelech.
king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her.
Okay. With Abimelech, you just gotta get a running start. It's kind of like an enemy. If you say it slow, you're gonna just your tongue gets all tied. All right, so a couple things. First off, there was like 4 different place names in that 2 verses. So I gotta give you a map so you know what the heck we're talking about here.
Sure, why not?
Why not?
That's a nice map.
Here we
Ooh,
go.
good map.
Google Maps.
Yeah.
Okay, so Oak Grove belonging to Mamre, that's where Abraham has been living for quite some time now. It says he moves to the desert between Kadesh and Shur. Now in the NLT, they say Negev. If you read the original text, it does not say which desert, it just says south. That's all it says. So it does name the desert here, but that's because of where they think Kadesh and Shur is. Now, Shur is actually a bit mysterious, as is Kadesh. Neither place actually survived to present day. So we have to find them archaeologically and assume we got the place right. A lot of times you don't go out to the edge of the city and find a big sign that says,
Welcome to Kadesh.
"Welcome to Kadesh." You don't find that very
Bible
much.
says he moved south to
Buried in the ground. Yeah, that's my point. NLT says Negev, and here's why. Shur is the place where the Ishmaelites settled. Ishmael. You guys remember Ishmael?
Yes.
Yeah.
Abraham's first son by the other lady that his wife asked him to marry, Hagar. Okay, so he moves to Shur. Funny story though, that doesn't tell us where it is. Just because you said the Ishmaelites moved to Shur doesn't mean you know now where Shur is. And there's no maps from back then.
Are you sure that's where it is?
Yeah, I know. Keep going. There's like 5 more jokes in there.
I
Keep
get it.
scraping the bottom of that barrel.
Sure, why not?
So Shur is either right here or it's right here. And that's ridiculous that there's that much ambiguity, but there is, because this is like 4,500 years ago. No one is absolutely sure. Kadesh is also iffy. Kadesh could be here or it could be here. So you're looking at like a Kadesh spot about this size, because we're not sure where Kadesh is. And the sure spot is like, it could be anywhere from here to there. We don't really know.
Expanded the name.
But I thought there was
across
a sure
that whole
spot.
area.
That's the point. We're just not that sure. So either when he moves in between the two, he's like in this area, in between these two possible locations and this location, or he's in this area between these two possible locations and this location. Now I've put on the markers for what I think are the most likely locations, the most likely. However, the NLT is actually assuming the opposite. The NLT is assuming that Shur is up here because this is Negev, right here. So when it says he moved to the Negev, they're assuming this one's where Shur is, right here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm assuming actually that Shur is way down here. And I'm basing that on another factoid from the Bible that says the Ishmaelites intermarried and lived alongside the Midianites. And this is the countryside of Midian, not this. So for the Ishmaelites to live in Shur and then intermarry with the Midianites seems like a really big stretch. Whereas if this is Shur, and then these are the Midianites, that seems like, well, duh, they're neighbors. That makes perfect sense. So I'm leaning on that. That's why I think this one's Shur. But I don't know. I wasn't there 4,500 years ago. I don't know
You're
for
that old?
sure.
I used to first
So anyways,
see
he
that.
moves south. That part we do know. That part's nice and clear. He went south. So we'll stick with that. He went south. Okay, you get to read now.
Skip?
Nope. Verse 3. Tiny little one singular verse 3. All yours.
But that night, God came to
Abimelech.
Abimelech in a dream and told him, "You are a dead man, for that woman you have taken is already married."
Dang. All right, so does anybody notice that thing we didn't really talk about that was in verse 2?
Yes.
What was that thing that happened in verse 2 we didn't really talk about? We didn't really mention it.
So he was
Yeah.
Same thing as the first mistake.
If you guys recall, last time Abraham went on a big journey, and then went back home eventually, because that's funny, that's what he did this time. He went down south, lived in the desert for a little bit, and then he's just like, I want to go back. Why? Well, this is the land God told him to go to. So at some point in his little head, he went, I don't like it here anymore, I'm going to go down there. Which is weird, because this is exactly where God said to be, is right up here. And then he just goes down south for no apparent reason, and realizes that was dumb. And then he goes back, and he ends up in Gerar. And Gerar does the same thing that happened when he did this last time. Last time he left the area where God told him to be, he went to Egypt. And when he was in Egypt, he's like, okay, honey, you're really pretty, and all the guys are going to kill me and take you, so just pretend you're my sister, so they won't kill me. And we talked about this last time. What does her being his sister fix? It fixes him dying. What does it not fix?
The marriage.
The fact that she's gonna get
Still be
married.
pretty, and the guys are still going to marry her. Like, it doesn't fix that at all. You should make up a different lie. Like, I have leprosy. Or, this isn't my real face. I took it from another woman.
Yeah, that
Like, any of these lies are good lies to stave off the boys, okay? Saying, I'm actually single. Wait a second. That's not gonna help. That's gonna make it worse. This is just my brother. We're not married. How does that help the situation? It doesn't. It makes the situation worse. It's a terrible lie. It makes literally no sense. This is what humans are good at. They're good at fixing the problem in front of them and not realizing all the problems that come down the road. He's like, I don't want to die. Let's fix that problem. Okay, let's pretend we're not married. Again. Remember, this is again. He already did it in Egypt. So now he's doing it up in Gerar. And guess what? Same exact backfire on this plan. It's exactly the same as last time. She gets taken off to the king's palace because she's so stinking pretty. And the king's like, I want to marry her.
You just met her.
This is exactly the same as last time. The king of Egypt did this last time. This was only a few chapters ago, guys.
Dang it.
Now, I'll give him some grace. This is actually about a decade since Egypt, okay? So, like, in his defense, he hasn't been this stupid for, like, 10 years, okay? He deserves another go at, man, the dumbest husband of the century award or something. I don't know what he's trying for exactly. I don't know what his award he wants is. But I think he's winning. I don't know any husbands that would do this one. Alright, so, second thing to note here from verse 3, look at the way God treats this king. I think it's kind of cool. Now, don't look at this too wrong. Like, this isn't God overblowing the situation. I think this is God talking his language. Wait till we read a little bit more about this guy. You'll start to see it maybe the way I do. I think God's approaching him and talking to him the exact way that he will understand best. Why do I think that? Well, because God tells him, you're a dead man. The God of the universe comes to a man in a dream, and the first thing out of God's mouth is, you're a dead man. Like, I would run. I don't care if it's a dream. I'm just going to run away in the dream. Like, I don't want to be anywhere near the God of the universe when he calls me a dead man. I'm out of there. But that's not what he does. And so to me, that says this king, that's exactly what he needed to hear. This is not the kind of king where when, like, you know, someone at the table offends him, he just quietly, like, whispers, I don't know if you understood the way you said that was, well, it was slightly hurtful to my feelings. I just thought you should know. This is the kind of king, like, you know, you offend him at the table, he just, like, throws a scimitar at you. This is a king who just sees a pretty girl and takes her. Like, that is this king.
But don't all kings, aren't all kings like
I haven't
that?
met all kings, so I can't say. But, yeah, it seems to be a theme.
Yeah.
He is a pushy, take what he wants kind of guy. So God gets in his face and just said, you're a dead man. You crossed the line. You went too far. Jediah, your turn to read. You got 4 and 5. Check out what he does. He does not run. He does not cower.
But Abimelech had not been slept with her yet. So he said, Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Then Abraham tell me, she is my sister. And she herself said, yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence. My hands are clean.
So he gets defensive. He says, hey, whoa. Like, I haven't actually done anything yet. I married who I thought was a single lady, and I haven't actually slept with her yet. So, like, I haven't cheated on them. She hasn't cheated with me. Like, this is all just a misunderstanding, okay? And then he blames it on the person who should actually be getting the blame here. He blames it on Abraham. In this situation, that's the right person to blame. He was lied to. He did not make this decision to marry her lightly. He thought she was single because Abraham's going around telling everyone, she's just my sister.
Going through town.
All right, now timeline here. Timeline. Last week was weird. Week before that. Anyone remember week before that?
Yes.
What happened 2 weeks ago?
He had a talk with Jesus.
About?
Sarah getting pregnant in the next 3 months.
About like how if there's 50 people that were righteous, then he'd
Oh,
save some.
yes, that was in there too. Sorry. Before that though, remember the promise he made to Sarah?
Yeah.
That he's gotta have a baby with her.
And there was even some specificity as to the timing. He says, I'm going to come back in a year and she'll have a son. And if you say I'll be back in a year and they'll have a kid, that means there's a timeline now in motion. Does anyone know how long pregnancy
9
usually
months.
lasts? How long?
40 weeks.
40 weeks. Good answer. Yeah, that's more accurate. Which is a little longer than 9 months if you're, able to count like that. So anyways, that's just a little less than a year, right? That doesn't leave a lot of time to get pregnant, right? If she's going to have a kid in a year, that means she's going to become pregnant within the next 2 to maybe 3 months tops. That's moving pretty quick. So they go down to the desert, can't be too long before they head to Gerar, and then either she's about to become or has already become pregnant based on the timeline. So she is now an 89-year-old woman who is probably recently pregnant, and she is still so beautiful that kings fight over her. That everyone wants her. That's a serious amount of beauty to have at 89. That's pretty wild. Yeah.
How old could they live though?
Tricky question. Abraham, I don't remember how old he lives. I know she dies
It
first.
was like in the
120.
900s.
Because he actually remarries.
The Hagar.
People lived a long time, so. No, not even that. That'd be too logical. But no, Hagar's gone. Spoiler alert. That's coming up.
Actually, she comes up in
Sorry,
21.
I was talking future tense. You are correct. She's not gone yet. She will be gone by the time Sarah dies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry. She's not gone yet. You are correct. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't raising my question.
Oh, that's a good stretch. Like, very good stretch. Okay. So now we've got Abimelech being called a dead man, him defending himself, and now the dream continues. It's not over yet. Caleb, can you read us 6 and 7?
In the dream, God responded, "Yes, I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from sinning against me, and why I did not let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, and he will pray for you. Yeah, and he will pray for you. For he is a prophet. Then you will live. But if you do not return her to him, you can be sure that you and your people will die."
That's creepy.
So this is not a request from God. Like, hey, I just want to give you the opportunity to do the right thing. This is a demand.
If you don't, you die.
If you don't, you die. Now it's going to get
Again.
thicker in a second. It's not just a death threat. It's worse than that. They've already been punished, and they've already been enduring the punishment, but they didn't know why. And then there's going to be another punishment. We haven't got to the punishment they're already enduring. That comes up later. All right, so God says you got to do this. Now, why does God do it this way? Look at the situation. Abraham brought this on himself, right? Abraham did this to himself. He did this to Sarah, for that matter. And yet God says, hey, this guy whose woman you've got is a prophet of mine. A prophet of mine. So I need you to be nice to him. That's effectively what God's saying to Abimelech. Why would God go out of his way to do that? Honestly, if I'm God and I'm trying to be just, I'm like, all right, Abraham, you're bad. Abimelech, you're dumb. Fireballs on you both, and we're good. We're done. We're done. Let's end this. Let's get this cleaned up quick. That's not what God does. He goes to Abimelech, he gives him an out, and then he says it in such a way so that Abimelech doesn't take revenge on Abraham. And that's really cool, because honestly, if someone tricks you into marrying a married woman, you might have words for that person who tricked you. You might want to take out some revenge on them, especially if there's like the God of the universe now threatening you in your dreams. It's not like you just made a mistake. You just did something wrong because they tricked you. You're now getting in trouble because they tricked you. You would probably want to take it out on them. That's natural. But so God here is protecting Abraham by creating this scenario where he's the prophet, he's important, you got to return her because he's going to pray for you and only then will I. God's setting up a situation where Abimelech does not take it out on Abraham. Abimelech instead is going to respect Abraham. But why would God do that?
So make him popular.
Well, think about it like this. Why did Abraham lie in the first place? Why is he going around saying this is my sister?
Because you don't want to
killed.
Jonathan?
Because he doesn't want to die.
He doesn't want to die. Why is he afraid of dying?
I don't know, it's human nature to not want to die.
Because if people know that it's his wife, then they might kill him so they can have her.
Okay, let's look at this a little deeper though. Why doesn't he think that God's going to get him through this?
Because he's weird.
Weird. I mean, God's already given him promises like you're going to have this son and you're going to go on to, have a nation come from that son and all this. Does he really think that God's going to let him die right now? Right when the promise is so close?
Apparently.
Sarah's alive, so that's fine.
Yeah, as long as Sarah's alive and pregnant, then the promise can work. We're good. We're good. We don't need Abraham anymore. I think at this point, guys, it's really simple. He's afraid of people more than he's afraid of God. It's that simple. See, the Bible talks about respect as being a certain kind of fear. It's not the generic fear. It's not the jump scare fear. It's not the creepy thing under your bed fear. Respect is the kind of fear where you put them in front of your other fears. So, yeah, I'm afraid of what my friends think of me at school, but my parents are more important. I respect what they say more than the people and what they think of me at school. Or I don't. And if I put what the people at school think of me in front of my parents, then guess what? I'm not respecting my parents. Straight up. That's just how it works. With Abraham, it's the people of Gerar and it's God. It's not the people at school and my parents. So in Abraham's case, he's in this new place with strangers, and they are more scary to him. He is more afraid of them than he has respect for God. This is doubt. This is just doubt, plain and simple. And so what God does here is so cool because God is being gracious. And instead of punishing him for his doubt and saying, look at what mistakes you make when you get afraid, you should be talking to me, Abraham, and getting all mad about Abraham's failure, instead God is now teaching him in his failure and protecting him in his failure. And so God is showing him, he's proving to him by action, by deed, look, I have the power to protect you. So instead of a punishment, God is giving him proof. That's so beautiful. Because that means God is not purely a discipliner by punishment. Discipline is when you bring someone forward, you help them grow, sometimes by force if necessary. But discipline does not have to be punishment. Discipline can also be a teaching moment. And a teaching moment with words in it is never as good as a teaching moment with actions in it. And so God is using some words here, but he's using some action. He's going to the king who holds Abraham's life in the balance, and he's making the king not want to kill Abraham. Showing to Abraham, look, I can protect you. You might not be able to figure out how, but that doesn't matter. I'm God. I can do it. And so now Abraham has a really odd role to play in the rest of the story. Watch what Abraham has to do. The rest of the story. Look how hard he has to work. How much he has to be smart and strategic and plan well and be, on top of everything and tell good lies and
No.
Or does he? Can you read us verses 8, 9, and 10? Abimelech.
Abimelech got up early the next morning and quickly called all of his servants together. When he told them what had happened, his men were terrified. Then Abimelech called for Abraham. What have you done to us? He demanded. What crime have I committed that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of this great sin? No one should ever do what you have done. Whatever possessed you to such a thing?
I think this is really interesting. He goes to this new place and he assumes the worst of everyone. They're just going to kill me and take my wife. And after he tricks them, the king says to him, you're treating me like a criminal. Yeah. Honestly, that's exactly what Abraham did. Mm-hmm. Abraham thought he was dealing with criminals and thieves and cutthroats and treated them like that, even though he had no evidence they were. And then the king says something. He says that he's committed a great sin. No one should ever do what you've done. What does that tell you?
It's silly.
They're not.
Well, not only was it really bad, but he knew it was really bad. He didn't say, how could you, a man of God, be as bad as us? He didn't say that. He said, no one should do what you've done. Meaning not even us. Essentially what this is telling you is, this would have been a horrible thing in their minds, even if he wasn't lying. Like if the king just took some other guy's wife and married her, even these people from Gerar, these godless people, they would still think that was horrible. Does that make sense? Like they weren't so backwards that they had no morals. They might not have been God followers, but they still knew basic right from basic wrong. And in their minds, stealing someone's wife, that was wrong. That was bad.
Why did they do it then?
They didn't.
He did.
He didn't. Knowingly, In his own mind, he was marrying a single woman. He was not taking someone's wife.
Okay, the king of Egypt then.
The same exact thing. He lied to him the exact same way in Egypt too.
Oh.
So what Abraham was assuming of them apparently was not true.
I still learned something this morning.
Good job. Bless you. The more you know, the more you realize how little you know.
Can you just call me stupid? Yes.
No. No. That's actually a truism. It's not an insult at all. Sorry if it felt like an insult.
It did.
No, literally, the more you learn about something, the more you realize there is to learn about something. So therefore, the less you actually know.
What?
Sorry, it still wasn't an insult. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Okay. We got 11 for Jonathan. Jonathan,
I can read.
can you read us 11 through 13? Don't sound too happy about it.
Abraham replied, I thought this was a godless place. They want my wife and will kill me to get her. She really is my sister. For we both have the same father, but different mothers. And I married her when God called me to leave my father's home and to travel from place to place. I told her, do me a favor. Whenever we go, I tell the people that I am your brother.
What?
Can you just imagine being there that day? I just picture like these two on their camels. They're like leading their whole herd of cattle and
Their
servants
whole
and everything.
armada.
Their whole armada of peoples. And there's like she's on one camel, he's on the other camel. They're just like bobbing along over the sand dunes. And he turns to her and says, "Hey, do me a favor. Just like whenever we talk to people, can you pretend to be my sister?" And then just awkward silence for the next hour. Because that's the dumbest thing you could ever say to your wife. Like, that had to hurt. And then you got to realize, like, this wasn't a one-time request and they had a fight about it and then they made up and it was all okay. Like, this is a standing request. This just continued on. Pretend to be my sister throughout the rest of our marriage.
What?
I don't even know what you would say to that.
What would
Like,
you
how
say
do you
to
even
your
start the
friend
fight
who's got
about
kids?
that? Like, so when I started dating Emily, I had previously, even after I moved out from my parents' house, I had shared a house with my sister like twice since I moved out. And I just spent a ton of time with my sisters. I'm really close with my sisters. I have an older one named Michelle, a younger one named Marie. And so we hung out constantly back then. And
I thought you were older than Michelle.
no, I'm the middle child. So there's I misdid that the other day. I said Marie was 2 years younger. She's 3 years younger. And then Michelle's 2 years older. Huh. Wonder who I was talking to. I got that wrong yesterday. Anyways, spent a ton of time with them. So I started dating Emily, and somehow my brain was just hardwired that when I'm in a room with a girl, it's my sister. And so frequently when we first started dating, I would call Emily Marie. The name of my little sister. And like it would just slip in. Like I wouldn't do it and then stop and realize I did it. I would just talk to her using Marie's name and keep going like I hadn't done anything horribly wrong. And she's over there just like stabbed in the heart, you know. That is so hurtful to like be thought of as your boyfriend's sister by your boyfriend. Like that is so mind breaking, and like I wouldn't even know I did it sometimes. And she would tell me, and I'm like, and like I would think it was like funny and weird, and then that's not what she was thinking. Like she wasn't thinking that's funny and weird. Like that, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. That's hurtful. And so it was very strange. But that idea that you mistake the relationship between you, or you pretend that the relationship between you is something other than it is very hurtful. It doesn't matter how you go about it. Mine was an accident I needed to try and work on. His is intentional. He is literally saying, let us pretend in public we aren't married.
And you did this more than once.
as far as we can tell from the context and how he's saying this, it backfired twice. That doesn't mean he did it twice. He may have done this countless times when out in public with her. And it only backfired 2 times. It seems like the way he's saying it, that he asked her this when they first came to Canaan. That was decades ago. If that's really how he's saying it, that means 4 decades she pretended to not be married to him when they were in public. There's a lot of marriage advice in the world. I have never seen that one. No one would think that was a good idea. Misrepresenting your relationship is not good for the relationship. It doesn't matter how you do it. This is just one of a terrible number of ways you could misrepresent your relationship. Yeah, Maya.
Why would he say that they're from the same father from a different mother?
They actually are. They're half siblings. Actually
He married
true.
her?
It's literally the next sentence
Did they
after he
used to
says
do
that. Yes.
back then?
Yeah.
Marry their siblings?
Not like full blood siblings, but yeah, it wasn't uncommon, especially depending on your geographical situation. So if you literally lived in like a combine of your family on a farm away from everything else, compound. Why did I say combine? That's the wrong thing. On like a compound farm, like all by yourselves, there's no one around. Yeah, it was easier that way. It still wasn't, I don't think, what people looked for. I don't think it was what people were trying to do all the time. But it happened more than once. So
That's weird.
yeah. Obviously he's having to explain it because it was even weird then. Does that make sense? If it was completely normal and everyone was doing it, he wouldn't have to explain
I thought
it.
he was still trying to lie.
Oh no. That time he's being honest. And see, that's how he justified it in his mind, it seems like, is since she is also my sister, when I say she's my sister, it's not a lie.
It's just bending the truth.
I'm just hiding part of the truth. Oh, you wanted to know if we were married? Well, you should have asked that.
You don't need that. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, no, that's just all kinds of.
That's a sad marriage.
It's not the best. Okay. 14 through 16.
Got it. Then Abimelech took some of his sheep and goats, cattle, and male and female servants, and presented them to Abraham. He also returned with his wife Sarah to him. Wait.
There was no with there.
I realized that.
Okay.
Then Abimelech said, "Look over my land and choose any place where you would like to live." And he said to Sarah, "Look, I'm giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all of these witnesses. This is to compensate you for any wrong I may have done to you. This will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is clear."
Did you guys notice that brother is in quotes?
Yeah.
I can just imagine him standing there doing air quotes as he says, brother. I'm paying your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. That's 25 pounds of silver. In today's money, that'd be like $6,000. I don't know what it would be back then. It's really hard to do conversion on money from that far back in time.
Well, if every pound
This
was
is-
penny.
Yeah, this is like against the shekel, which is just a weight measurement. It's not a monetary unit this far back in time. So there's no currency conversion you can do because this is before they minted coins. There was no currency.
What did they have? What
This,
did
they had pieces of metal.
Animals.
You would literally just weigh it out so that each blop of silver weighed the same amount.
Blop.
And maybe flatten it, but who cares? It doesn't matter. They all fit in a bag the same, whether you flatten them or round them. Whatever's
So you got
easiest to
lumps of
manufacture.
silver. Melt it.
So you
Yeah.
know who became perfect.
Yes.
I think he has some mental illness after that dream because he said, or he took some goats, cattle, and sheep
Uh-huh.
as witnesses.
Oh. That's great. I love it. Yeah, you could try and read it that way. Yeah. In the presence of all these witnesses. Oh, I love it. That's a great reading. Yeah. No, I think there was actually witnesses there that were not of the animal persuasion. Now, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
In my translation, it says that he took the animals and the servants and gave them to Abraham.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine says Abimelech.
His does too, but it never mentions any witnesses coming forward.
Male
It just says these witnesses. And in English, when there's a these, you just go back to the last group,
Yeah, my.
which is all the sheep and goats.
Yeah. I mean, but there were some people because of servants. I mean.
Yeah, yes. Okay. Anyways. So, imagine this though. You make a huge blunder, not only in your marriage, but now it affects the people you live around, your town. And God has your back. So much so that after the people of your town figure out that you've wronged them, they pay you.
That's kind of crazy.
That's a miracle. There is no piece of humanity that would say, wow, I can't believe you tricked us and deceived us and were so mean to us. And you're treating us like we're criminals and just take my money.
Take my
What?
criminals.
Take all of my belongings. Just go.
Okay.
Huh?
I guess you're
You don't want to sue me? No, just take my stuff. Get out of here.
It's like he was gonna steal his stuff. He's like, just take it.
But he never wanted that.
Yeah, it's so weird.
This is really a miracle. Like, God's the only one who can work this way. And that's really the point, is God can control circumstances, and you don't have to be able to know how. You don't have to get how God's going to do it. You just have to trust that he has the ability to change the circumstance however he sees fit. And if the circumstances, people are going to kill you to take your wife, trust that God's going to work through that situation with you.
Or
And he's going to be there, and he's going to see his will get done. Now, in this case, you do have some assurance on what his will is. And that is a bit calming, a bit peace-inducing to know God has a plan for the future of your life. Therefore, there is a future to your life.
Yeah, then you can know that you're not going to die before this thing happens because God promised it.
Okay, and then 17, 18.
When Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants, so they could have children. For the Lord had caused all the women to be infertile because of what happened to Abraham's wife Sarah.
Okay, so now we see the final punishment mentioned is actually the first one that was enacted. The king had the dream, and God threatened that everyone would die if they didn't give back Sarah. But it didn't get mentioned in the dream that however long Sarah had been abducted, however long she'd been in the palace, no one had been able to get pregnant in the palace. So like we're stretching the timeline. We're guessing at some point she would have been visibly pregnant, and this whole thing would have started to be like, wait a second, I thought you were single before we got married, and everything would have fallen apart. So we're guessing like a 2-month, pushing it out to 3 maximum before things come unraveled. So people have been not able to get pregnant for that long. That would have been a big deal back then. Birth control was not a thing back then. In fact, it was considered very bad if you were a woman and you could not get pregnant. You were looked down on in their culture. And so if every single person in the palace, all the servants, all his other wives he may have had, everyone could not get pregnant, they'd start to ask some questions. They'd start to wonder, what's wrong? How did we all become infertile all at once? That doesn't make any sense. And I think that's actually a really fitting punishment for 2 reasons. One is,
Then Sarah can't get pregnant with
well, it's a temporary punishment, and that's kind of cool. Like God can lift it. He didn't punish them for this crime in which they were kind of innocent in like a permanent lasting way.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really know what they were doing was wrong. He didn't punish them in some sort of permanent damage, everyone gets hurt sort of punishment. He punished them in a, I can put it down, I can take it off. Like, this is temporary sort of punishment. The other thing is, Sarah had been infertile pretty much her whole life. She's only just about to have a kid for the first time now that she's like turning 90.
That must be rough.
And so I thought it was interesting, like that's the punishment that follows her, is everyone else is now infertile like she's been. That's interesting. Yes? It was weird to think of it like that. Yeah, essentially right now is right when God said you're going to be able to get pregnant. And when she's taken to the king's palace, the temporary punishment is that everyone under the king's roof can't get pregnant. And then when he returns her to Abraham, Sarah gets to go home, then God lifts that punishment, and the people under the king's roof can get pregnant. Isn't that interesting? That it was pregnancy that was chosen, since she's the one who her whole life has been infertile. So just an odd pairing of which punishment for who and all that. All right, so in all of this, what can we learn from Abraham's example?
Don't say your wife is your sister.
Don't mess up your relationships. Don't lie about your relationships. Be real. Anything else? All right, guys. This is the lesson. It is so stinking hard to learn, even though we all know it's true. I put it on the board to try and get you thinking about it.
Don't lie. Don't lie.
When you lie to cover up what you did, or to keep you from getting in trouble, or whatever, are you hiding the truth?
Well, let's say I break a vase.
Okay,
And then-
classic example.
Yeah.
Darn vases. They're everywhere, man.
And then I say that my brother broke it.
Yeah.
That would be lying and hiding the truth that I broke it.
Correct. All right, now here's a question. When you hide the truth, how long can it stay hidden?
Until
Until
until they're found not guilty.
Is there a permanent way to hide the truth?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What's a permanent way to hide the truth?
Well, you lie and then they forget about it.
Yeah, that's.
It used to be a
The
very-
perfect crime.
No, I know. You
I'm
don't
sorry,
lie.
that doesn't work. There is no forever in hiding the truth.
You still have like the shame.
I was gonna say you don't
Like
lie.
the
I
guilt.
don't remember.
So this is the problem. It looks like when you're right there in that situation that there's bad things about to happen to you, and if you lie, you can sidestep them. But the truth is not that.
When I was younger, I was a very bad liar. One time I rubbed chapstick, red chapstick on when I was like 5. I rubbed red chapstick on Danielle's white curtain rod and then said I didn't do it. And I left the chapstick sitting on her bed.
To incriminate her.
I was a
So
very
wait, how
bad
was the lie bad? This sounds like an open and shut case of little kid did the bad thing.
I know, but I pinned it on my little sister.
Why was that a bad lie?
I mean, like, okay, so it wasn't like a super duper bad lie, but I still lied, so it was like.
Are all
Oh,
lies
the lie
still-
was bad to lie. It wasn't like you
When
made
you
a
say
lie
it's a
that was
bad
easy
lie,
to
it's-
find you out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Usually when someone says a bad lie, that would be a double positive.
No,
If they just mean it was evil and
no,
a
I
lie.
mean, like, it was not
Usually
a
when
very
someone says a
good
bad lie, they mean like everyone saw straight through my lie.
Yeah, that's, yeah, it's like.
The bird came in and
I
knocked
tapped
the
it.
vase. I tried to stop it.
I had the baby
You like
gun
go
in
rip
my
open a
hand.
pillow, you get some feathers, you like scatter the feathers around.
I had the BB gun in my hand.
What kind of bird was it?
A bad
How am I
one.
Sparrow.
supposed to
These
know?
are ghost feathers!
A feather bird. The bird kind. How am I supposed to know? Let's see. It was the
Wait,
feather kind. Where's my pillow?
So many
Feathers.
instances pop into my mind. Okay, so
Of course.
guys, the truth is this though. When you do something that you don't want to get in trouble for, and you confess it, you might get in trouble for that thing.
Exactly.
When you do something you're going to get in trouble for, and then you lie to cover it up, what you've done is delay your punishment and increased your crime. You have not avoided your punishment. You've delayed the consequences and increased your crime. So think of it like this. Think of it like a loan. Okay, you go take out a loan for $200,000 and now you feel rich. Right? I got 200 grand. Yeah! And then the end of the month comes and you have a payment to make. In the world of lying, that's like having to make a lie to cover up your first lie. You don't get out of the consequences. You just delayed them.
A little bit.
And now, if you don't pay up, there's interest. You're going to have consequences that are now increased because of the original thing you did wrong, plus the lie you've told. And the longer you have this loan, the more interest gets stacked on top, because the more lies you have to tell. And the longer the lie is the only thing people know, the bigger the lie gets. And the quicker you tell the truth, the sooner you can be out from under that debt, the sooner you can be out from under that guilt, the sooner you can just take whatever the consequences are and just be done with it. But the longer you live with that lie, the bigger the consequences grow. Abraham had a lie he would tell out in public all the time. And then every now and then it would catch up with him. And I'm sure for all those other times he told that lie and didn't have a big giant fat consequence of my wife getting abducted by some king again, I'm sure it felt like he was winning. Like, yeah, this is how I'm alive. I'm alive because I lie to people. I don't think that was true. But I think you keep telling the lie and you keep living and you will believe that. You will believe that the lie is what's keeping you alive. Yeah.
It's not bad to get a loan, right?
No, but it's an analogy. Loans come with interest. So if you take too long to pay off the loan, you end up paying up a lot more than what you actually got in the loan.
I mean, like some.
So like you get a $200,000 loan for a house, you don't pay back $200,000. You actually pay back a lot more than $200,000.
Double.
Not double, but like sometimes an extra 50,000, maybe 60,000 to have that 200,000 up front, but you pay it back over time. And that was the instance of the lies analogy, was that it feels like you're not getting the punishment. You're getting what you want, but really you're still going to have to pay all the money. Paying the $200,000 to get your fancy house, or your fancy car, your fancy boat, it costs more than $200,000. Isn't that weird?
Just get the $2,000 and then use some of it to that's when you get a job.
And then abandon your loan and don't pay it back.
It's like, I speak a different
That is a
language.
crime too. That's perfect crime. So a different instance would be like saving up $200,000. And as you leave your money in the bank every month and keep adding more money to it to hopefully get to $200,000 one day, the bank actually pays you, puts extra money in your account for leaving your money in their bank.
Ah.
So a loan, you get the money all at once, and now you owe the bank extra for getting it all at once.
Isn't it because
But to save up $200,000, they actually throw some in for you.
1
Why would
cent
they do that?
at a time.
Because when your money's in the bank, they actually get to spend it. I know that's really weird, it's complicated. We could go into a whole series of questions all about that. Banks hold thousands of people's money all at once, and then they get to go make investments like loans. And then when people pay in the extra into a loan, they get to divvy up some of it to all the people who left their money in the bank.
Yay.
Does that make sense?
But they still spent your money.
Oh yeah, but it's coming back. In a loan, they give out the 200,000, and then you have to pay back 250-ish thousand. So now there's an extra 50,000 coming back. They can pay salaries of bankers. They can put interest into people's bank accounts. Does that make sense?
Best.
They spend your money very carefully so they make more money out of it.
And that's how they get paid.
Isn't that interesting? Anyways, it's just the difference between a lie and a good deed. That, like a good deed is like a savings account, and a lie is like a loan. One gives you more than you put in. One takes more than you thought you were giving. Does that make sense? Not the world's best analogy. Okay. That was kind of it. The whole point is when you lie, you don't get out of punishment. You just delay and increase your consequences. Lying is not just wrong. It's stupid. Does that make sense? Like there is no smart lie. It's a lie if you think there's a smart
All
lie.
lies are bad.
You're just lying to yourself.
All bad lie, therefore, don't lie.
Yeah, you're going to be found out 100% of the time. There is no perfect lie. When all is said and done,
Lies are
God
awful.
sees everything.
I see you.
There's no lie he misses.
Don't deny it, you're creepy.
Only when he wants to be.
Don't
Alright.
lie, period.
Let's pray. Oh, Lord, as we keep reading through the life of Abraham, we just thank you that you're willing to show us the good and the bad. Lord, thank you for not allowing us to continue on thinking that all the people in the Bible are perfect and we can never be like them, Lord. Thank you for just showing us the truth. Abraham had his ups and his downs, his successes and his failures. And Lord, you're gracious to him. Help us, Lord, to remember that when we fail, you are not just a judge who punishes. You're also a gracious and a loving Father. And so even when we mess up, Lord, you have grace for us. Help us to not run from you. when we feel ashamed and we've messed up. Lord, help us to run to you. Help us to trust in you and to not be afraid like Abraham was, but rather to stand strong knowing that you have control in every situation. Help us, Lord, to put that trust in you and then to act on it, making sure that our respect for you is bigger than our fear of anything else. Help us, Lord, to rest in the peace of knowing you are in charge of everything. We love you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you that you're in our lives and you want to work in our lives. We pray all these things in your name. Amen. I love you guys. I'm probably going to be gone real soon. I might be here next week, but probably not the week after. Emily is due super duper soon. New Year's party here, December 31st, 7:30, $5, pizza dinner.
Try that when I get home, but I highly doubt that one.
And apparently a Simon Says tournament.
Yes.
You think you're a bully. I'm full of energy and I don't want to fall. What the heck? I was with my friends last night, so I went to bed at like 1:40.